Jai Guru Datta, Sri Akkalkot Maharaj Charitra, Chapter 7. The Swami and his attendants. They love all equally, but the devotees reap as they sow the seed of faith. Accordingly, the devotees either come closer or go farther from the Holy One. When the Swami first arrived at Akkalkot, the good fortune of offering him food fell to Cholappa, and as though this was a sign of God's grace, the Swami happened to stay at his house for a long time. However, Cholappa's faith in the Swami's greatness had to contend with the attitude of his wife and his two sons, who considered him a mere lunatic. They were highly displeased that a madman should be harbored in their home and that he should be accorded the highest honor. Cholappa's wife was, as it were, a touchstone in the hands of the Swami to test Cholappa's faith. For unmindful of the trouble to which his, his host is likely to be put, the Swami behaved in the wildest manner possible. For instance, he would dole out the grain in the house to the cattle as though it were his own. He would beckon to the beggars and give them away any article that came in handy in Cholappa's house, or, like a small child, he would urinate anywhere he sat in the house. Once, Yashobai, wife of Cholappa, carefully stored a huge quantity of dal and wanted to prepare certain sweets with them for the coming festival. But every day the Swami stole a little of them and fed the cows therewith, till the pot was finally empty. On the day preceding the festival, the housewife found the pot empty. In a fury, she complained to her husband, and finding him cool and unperturbed, she questioned the Swami himself about it. The Swami put on an innocent face and said, "What do I know? The cow or all the doll? The cow ate all the doll. You ask the cow about it. Why do you ask me?" One day the Swami suddenly set out walking towards a place called Hosapur. When Cholappa followed him, he turned round and said, "I am a sannyasi, you are a householder. You should not follow us. You must stay there and attend to your worldly affairs." Cholappa stood there silently but did not turn back. The Swami burst out in a rage and hurled foul abuse at him. At last, with tears in his eyes, Cholappa pleaded, "I would rather leave my home. I cannot leave your holy feet." Though the Swami was inwardly pleased with his devotion, he put on a stern expression on his face and threw his wooden sandals at Cholappa and commanded him to worship them in his shrine. Cholappa did accordingly. In the course of years, many devotees from far and near were mysteriously directed to worship them in order to overcome their hardships, and then Cholappa realized that what the Swami had given him were not mere wood. Even today, these holy sandals can be seen in the shrine at Cholappa's mutt. Whatever the trouble that Cholappa had to face as a consequence of Swami's pranks, the Swami became a member of his family. It was not long before that the Raja of Akkalkot became a devotee of this King of Kings, and henceforth he bore all the expenses that his service entailed. The Swami came to depend on and accept the Raja's service and hospitality. The antagonism of Yashobai is not the sole reason for this. It is proper that the ruler should serve a godman, for the winning merit of it would go to all the people that are ruled by such a Raja. But the Swami continued to stay in Cholappa's house and went on annoying Yashobai by his wayward behavior. He would insist on sleeping in the bed that was meant for the newborn. He would pass stool in the kitchen hearth. He would find a rare pleasure in sprinkling water on the fuel in the hearth which Yashobai took a lot of trouble to light. Whenever ritual purity was observed during sacred ceremonies, he would violate it by touching those that observed it. Once Yashobai prepared a large quantity of sweet pancakes. When she was busy attending to some other task, a sadhu came to her doorstep for alms. And lo, the Swami jumped with joy at the chance he got to tease her. He gleefully took up the whole lot of sweets and ran to the doorstep to give them away to the sadhu. The housewife saw that was what was happening and in a trice ran to him, plucked the basket of sweets from the Swami's hand, gave one to the sadhu and saved the rest of them. Once, when Cholappa left the village on business, the Swami stood in the middle of the house, loudly announced that the house was his and that no one else had the right to live in it. He then drove Yasobai and her children out of the house and guarded the doorstep with a stick in his hand. In utter helplessness, Yashobai and her children took shelter under a neighboring tree. They had to starve the whole noon, and yet the Swami would not give in. Cholappa, who returned in the evening, had to pacify and cajole the Swami as though he were an obstinate child to allow them all into the house. On another occasion, Yashobai was in an advanced state of pregnancy and was expected to deliver on that day. She started having the labor pains. A bed was arranged for her in a room, but the doctor was to be closed. When the door was to be closed, the Swami squatted across the doorstep and did not move. Besides, he went on upsetting all the articles in the house, throwing them in all directions. But when the moment of delivery approached, he calmed down, set the house in order, and himself closed the door of the delivery room. Those who had an insight into the mysterious ways of Swami realized that all the noise he made signified that he was warding off an impending calamity in the family by his mysterious powers. Indeed, there came a time when the saint's heart softened with regard to Yashobai, and promptly he graced her with revelatory experience of his power. However, the nature of the experience was in keeping with her innate hostility to him. One day she was stung by a scorpion. She screamed in pain and could endure it no longer. Then the Swami threw one of his sandals at her. She promptly picked it up and her head in it, put her hand in it. At once the pain vanished, only to reappear as soon as she took her hand out of it. At last, she kept her hand in the sandal and had a peaceful sleep. Perhaps through this miracle, Leela, he wanted to teach that samsara or the worldly life of attachments was fraught with pain like the scorpion sting, that once she sought shelter at the holy sandal of a god man, the pain would be no more, that if she were to desert him in favor of life in samsara, pain and sorrow would reappear. Thus, the safest course in life is to hold on to the feet of the Lord and be at rest carefree. Viewed from one angle, Cholappa is more fortunate than most other devotees of the Swami. The master stayed in his house longer than he did anywhere else, yet, from another point of view, he was the least fortunate of them. Though his regard for the Swami was high, it never ripened into rapturous devotion. In front of his very eyes, many devotees derived crowning spiritual experiences by the mere touch or the word of the Swami, but Cholappa was not to be one among them. Everything in the creation must either wane or wax, that is the law of nature. Cholappa's faith in the Swami did not wax, so it started waning. Even while the master in his house was granting darshan of various deities in himself to countless visitors, Cholappa was visiting several holy places in search of solace and light. In course of time, love of money stole into his heart. The Swami was not unaware of it. He even hinted at it one day when he said, "The very thing which is mine is now turning against me." There is no question of callousness on the part of the Swami. The Godmen see God in everything and in everyone. They see themselves in all and all in themselves, says the Bhagavad Gita. They love all equally, but the devotees reap as they sow the seed of faith. Accordingly, the devotees either come closer or go farther from the Holy One. Towards the end of his life, Cholappa was bedridden, but the Swami never visited him nor did he show any special concern for him by sending either holy water, tirtha, or consecrated offerings, prasada. In his last moments, someone dear to Cholappa poured a little of Swami's Padatirtha, holy water in which the feet of the master were washed, in his mouth, and Cholappa swallowed it with great difficulty and then gave up his body. This does not, however, show that the Swami loved him less. When he heard of Cholappa's death, the Swami's face was grief stricken. To those who little understood his love for Cholappa, he said that the love between them, that is, himself and Cholappa, was 7 times more ardent than the love that binds a father and his son. He added that he too would soon lay down his body and would not survive Cholappa's death for long. He said, "In this world no one belongs to anyone else. Where shall I go without Cholappa? To whom can I show my Leelas?" Another individual that had the rare fortune of serving the master most of the time was Sundarabai, a lady. Even on her first arrival, the Swami told Cholappa that she was his Cholappa's potent rival. In course of time, she gradually displaced Cholappa, appropriating all the service of the Swami to herself. Yet she did not have the goodness of the heart that was needed to make the best of her rare fortune. All the time she was engrossed in posing as a poor woman and collecting money and gifts from the Swami's devotees. For, in the eyes of the visitors, she had the supreme place among the Swami's attendants. They thought that any service of gifts rendered to her are therefore meritorious. The Swami was not blind to all this, but he kept quiet. As we have said earlier, everything in the creation must either wax or wane, and her avarice waxed. She even indulged in backbiting and tale bearing against other attendants to the Rani, princess of Akkalkot. With a very humor, the Swami used to describe her as his scarecrow, one who wards off the crowds from him by her bad temper. When devotees refused to give her any gifts, she used to see that they do not get a chance to see the Swami. The Swami allowed a free hand to the courts of divine justice. Soon the British government received innumerable complaints and charges against her conduct and finally ordered the Raja to dismiss her from the service of the Swami and to appoint a committee to look after his service. The Swami kept his characteristic silence even when she was turned out. Balappa was made the head of the committee. Jai Gurudatta.